Hello, and welcome to AskTheLawyers.com. I'm Kimberly Bush, and today I'm interviewing Michael Warshauer of the Warshauer Law Group in Atlanta, Georgia. Michael is a trial attorney, and he represents clients and their families sometimes at the worst times of their lives, after a serious accident happened, after a serious injury, and even after the wrongful death of a loved one. Today, he's going to explain to me what happened in a case he handled that resulted in a record-setting verdict in Georgia from his law firm. Thanks, Michael, for coming and speaking with me today about this case.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
So explain to me what happened to your client in this case that brought her to your law firm.
Well, our client was involved in a serious car wreck. And the serious car wreck, she broke both her ankles. And that was her primary obvious injury. She went to an emergency room and they diagnosed that at a small community hospital, and then was moved to a regional hospital with a neck brace on to protect her spine because she had not been cleared, which is essential. When she got to the regional hospital, they ignored her neck. They took one x-ray, did not see a problem, proceeded to do very good work on her ankles, and put her in a room, and then got her out of bed the next day and discovered that they had failed to discover that her cervical spine was broken. And getting her out of bed caused the neck to shift. And when it shifted, it impacted her spinal cord, and she was paralyzed really from the ribs down from then.
So she ended up a paraplegic as the result of what happened in the hospital, is that correct?
It is. Certainly the car wreck caused her to have a fractured bone in her neck, but it was the hospital's failure to diagnose, discover, and treat that fracture that led to the paraplegia, because until then, she was fine. And it was a very easy injury to treat merely by making sure that her neck remained protected, as had the EMS, emergency medical services, had protected her neck, as had the very small community hospital, they had protected her neck, as had the ambulance from the small hospital to the regional hospital had protected her neck. And it was only when she got to the regional hospital, where she should have theoretically gotten the best care, that they failed to protect her neck and allowed her to become a paraplegic.
So in playing maybe a little devil's advocate, if she was transferred from multiple hospitals, why wasn't the final hospital told to protect her neck, or that she might have neck problems? Was that part of the case?
Well, it's part of the standard of care. Anytime a hospital or medical care professional is charged with the duty of taking care of a patient, one of the things they have to do is comply with what's called the standard of care. The standard of care means that degree of care that a doctor or hospital in same or similar circumstances would use to take care of that patient. So in this circumstance, the standard of care for the regional hospital was to clear her neck, meaning to take 3 views of x-rays from the front, from the side, and from the back, so that you make sure you don't miss a broken bone. The EMS people surely can't clear a neck. That's not in their skill set. They don't have the tools to do it. And the rural community hospital made it clear they had not done it yet, which is why they kept her neck immobilized.
Okay.
So it was the regional hospital, the trauma center, if you will, it was their job to do that. And they just got distracted by her feet and didn't do their job.
Wow.
They took 1 x-ray instead of 3. And the 1 x-ray, we believe, showed a fracture, but certainly had there been 3, it would have been absolutely clear that her spinal cord was at jeopardy if she didn't stay immobilized.
That's really unbelievable, because you would imagine, because some people could understand if someone gets taken to an ER after a serious car accident, doctors and staff, they're going to try to do the best they can for this person. But what you're saying is they really failed to do what they should have done, and as a result, what should have been ankle injuries turned into paraplegia. Is that what you're saying happened?
Sure, and certainly she would have had some degree of time with her neck immobilized. We've all seen people with a halo and comes down onto your shoulders. And that would have been uncomfortable for maybe 3 weeks, but she would have been fine.
Right.
Every major trauma center in America has a protocol that they follow, the standard of care. And every single one of those hospitals says that at a minimum, you'll take 3 views of the neck and a wreck of this level of violence to ensure that there are no problems. And this hospital just failed to do it.
It's really so upsetting because you think if you're on your way to the hospital after a car accident, you know, these people are going to help you and make you better. And that just seemed to not have happened with this client.
Well, that's exactly right. And that's the sad part of this case is that had she remained in the community hospital, they probably, while they didn't have the trauma surgeons to cure her ankles, they certainly knew how to clear the neck, but they wanted to get her to what they assumed was the best care by going to the trauma center, and it turned out to be less than appropriate care for her needs.
So I understand you represent a lot of people that have sustained spinal cord injuries and brain injuries. Tell me about, in these types of cases, who usually steps up to help the people that have been injured, and how does this situation affect other people?
Well, any kind of injury that is catastrophic is obviously going to affect the victim. Their life is going to be horribly changed. So if we take the woman that we were just talking about, she went from a fully functioning active adult, capable of taking care of herself in every way, to someone who needs others to take care of her. So when I say others have to take care of her, that affects their lives too.
Yeah.
So now her children have to step up, and instead of being cared for by their mother, they have to become caretakers for their mother. Her mother has to come and take care of her. Her family, her community, her church, all step up and try to do the best they can, but they really can't provide, usually they can't provide all the needs that someone who has paralysis requires. They need their house rebuilt. For example, when we were retained by this woman, was living in a house and she couldn't get in or out of it. They couldn't afford to build a ramp. And if they got her down the steps, they didn't have a handicapped van. So it was very difficult to transfer her, to take her out to dinner, for example, or go to church.
Right.
She couldn't get in. Her wheelchair was too wide to go through the bathroom door. So the house needed to be modified. All of these things take a community of people and, unfortunately, a lot of money to do. In addition to that, she needs nursing services. She needs supplies, catheterization, new wheelchairs. You know, when she's young, she can push herself in a wheelchair, but as she ages, she'll need electric assistance. All of that has to be accounted for and paid for. And so you ask who steps up. Often it's the lawyers who step up by trying to obtain what we call full, fair, and just compensation. That is enough to put her back to where she was as best we can, given the tools we have in the judicial system.
Absolutely. It seems to me like, obviously, in a case like this, you know, money doesn't really fix her problem. You know, no one will really be able to cure her of this injury. But at the very least, this money that your law firm was able to get for her can do those home improvements you mentioned that she needs, and it can do those. You know, maybe she needs a new car or van that can have a wheelchair that goes in, or maybe she can hire, you know, a 24-hour care that can help her mother that's already taking care of her, or help the rest of the family. So that's the kind of thing that you're looking to do with these damage awards. Is that right?
It is. I remember during the trial that our client was on the stand and we were asking her about her life, and she said that sometimes she would roll to the front screen door and she would look out and see a stray dog in the street, and she said, "I'm jealous of a stray dog."
Yeah.
And that's pretty touching if you think about it, that you're jealous of the life of a stray dog because you are a prisoner of your home.
Yeah.
So what we were able to do, and our goal in this case, and in every case we do, is to do the best we can to meet the needs of our client. I tell juries in every case, they don't have the power to turn back the hands of time and say to these doctors at this hospital, please do your job right. Please screen this woman's neck. Please give her the treatment she needs. So turning back the hands of time isn't in my toolbox.
Right.
But what is in my toolbox is to ask for compensation that we can use to modify her home, which we did. For compensation that we can use to acquire not only a van for the immediate time, but vans for the rest of her life as we anticipate them wearing out. So we have that. You mentioned care. So we include in our verdict an amount to compensate professionals to come in, because while we expect our parents and our children or our spouses to take care of us, all of our communities expect that. At the end of the day, it's not their job.
Right.
They're not responsible for causing this event, and we should allow them to return back to their normal lives as best we can. So we try to get financial assistance where we predict the cost of nursing care for the expected life of our clients. And the family can draw down on that as nursing care is used, or even pay one of the family members who might otherwise have been employed to do this if that's their preference. But you can't do any of this without money, and that's what we ask for when we seek a jury verdict.
Absolutely. Yeah, someone has to take care of the caregivers sometimes as well as the injured person, because if the caregivers and the family that supports that person, they're not supported, then, everything could kind of fall apart. So thank you.
Caregivers die. Yeah. Caregivers get sick. Caregivers get old. And caregivers at some point aren't able to give care. Unfortunately, what happens is our person who needs the care needs more care as they age. So let's assume there's a 25-year difference between the mother who's providing care for the daughter. That means when the daughter's 50, the mother's 75.
Yeah.
And when the daughter's 75, the mother's more likely than not passed.
Right.
So if we haven't provided a plan for that to happen, for money for that eventuality to happen, because we know we all will get older and our parents and caregivers will get older, we haven't done our job. So one of the things that we try to do at the Warshauer Law Group is to help juries understand these future costs. One of the ways we do that is by hiring experts, and the one that comes to mind is called a life care planner. Life care planners are professionals who look at the cost of future medical bills, the cost of future supplies, the cost of home improvements, the cost of vehicles and how long they'll last. And they come up with numbers for all of these costs, for dollar values for all of these costs. And then we work with an economist who tells us how much money in today's dollars it will take to fund these future needs for the rest of our clients' lives. We give that information to the juries with the hope that they will include that in their verdict. Of course, the larger part of the verdict should be the change in our client's life. That's always more valuable than medical care. But the medical care is something juries need to understand so that they can help our clients as best they can get back to the very best life that's possible for them given their medical conditions.
Thank you, Michael. I wanted to give you one last opportunity to explain what someone can do if they find themselves or a family member in this situation. There's a lot of injury attorneys out there. How do they choose an injury attorney that can really do the job well, a real trial lawyer? How would someone know who was like that and who wouldn't be?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think people with very large claims have to do their homework.
Yeah.
They need to ask their lawyers, are you board certified?
Yeah.
Have you tried cases? Do you have the financial wherewithal to fund my case?
Yeah.
Do you take your cases one at a time, or do you have 3,000 cases?
Yes.
When you work on a case, do you do it by yourself, or do you have a team of experienced people? For example, in our law firm, there are always 2 lawyers on every case. In our law firm, and we have medical negligence claims, or malpractice claims as they're commonly called, we have an in-house physician who can help us do the initial screening, who can help us find experts, and who can help us throughout the course of the litigation make sure that we stay on top of the medicine to get the very best result we can when we prosecute these cases. So at the end of the day, to answer your question,
yes.
the short answer is you want someone who you're comfortable with, and you should be comfortable with them because you know they care about you and because they have the skill set based on their prior experience and successes to give you the result that you need for your future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for explaining to me what you were able to do for your client in this situation. And you can really tell how much you and your law firm cares about these people and these clients and their families. Thank you, everyone, for watching. My name is Kimberly Bush from Ask the Lawyers. If you'd like to know more about Michael Warshauer and the Warshauer Law Group, you can find him on AskTheLawyers.com. Or for any kind of legal information, come to Ask the Lawyers, where you can choose a lawyer that lawyers choose.